then yeah, I'm also recording the session for you, so for the others. So it's useful for the whole team. All right. Then let's kind of start a little bit officially. Like what I always like to do is like kind of have a little bit of a question round. Dude already wrote me and he kind of gave me a replay code that he would like us to go to go over with the team. But before this, basically a question to everybody: is there like anything you would like to ask me about anything related to Overwatch? It's also okay if not. If you have anything. I have the icon vault, yeah, but like we will talk about this in a second. But if there's anything else you would like to ask. Mm-hmm. Sure, we can definitely, yeah, we can definitely talk about this. How the SIG, like what's the differences and yeah, what it means. Sure. Anything else from the others? Yeah. um, let's say like this. I think it because like, we will just like also talk about when we talk about the composition in a second. If it's more of a like a bigger topic to go over, but for sure we'll definitely mention it. Then maybe yeah, if you already kind of give some questions in this regard, is there anything else also maybe from the others that you really want to talk about? If there's no other kind of smaller things also. Just want to kind of collect something so that I like the goal why I'm asking this is that I like obviously I want to make this session for you guys, right? Like that you get something out of it. So I first need to kind of a little bit know of where are your kind of your pain points, where are your questions, or like also just yeah things that you want to discuss. Um, that's why kind of the questions. Right? Then if we have nothing else, like I said, dude already wrote me something, nothing specific to the icon welder. I can share the screen already. He basically just told me the things that you're working on with the different composition. So in Brawl, he was saying that you're practicing a Symmetra Doom or Symmetra May, and that you're focusing on coordinating DP engages, and that mid fights need some polishing, and that your McCree Brawl is the best so far from your compositions. Would you agree, or is there maybe something else that you feel like, yeah, like, but you missed something or forgot? Huh? Just making a note for me. Um, okay, perfect. Then, yeah, like, how do you want to do it? Like, because, like, do we just want to go over the fights? I tell you kind of what I think about this. And we kind of have maybe a list of things you can work on. Do you want to have, do you have something specific on this Eigenwalder map? Will you say like, yeah, the situation there, how do we solve it? Do you want to talk more general about the kind of the questions you asked with like the Sigma and the Diva? Yeah, what would be interesting for you? Like, or do we just kind of want to go from here and then um, see if there's something interesting we can find in the fights? Okay, all right. Then let's do this. Okay. Yeah, then obviously, like because you also are kind of already asked, and also that we're on the same page when we're playing this composition here. Um, let's not think about the map, or also don't think about like what the enemies are playing, but the kind of what is our win condition? Like how do we kind of get kills? Like how do we kind of win fights with this comp? Okay, can you be a little bit more detailed? Like what does it mean? Oh, okay, but like for now, I don't really have a clear line. Like uh, we need to focus on this, then we need to do this, and then we get a kill. Like for now, you just said wall speed, and we have a Sigma, we have more poke. Can we form this to more sentence? Okay, and what is if they play dive? Like they don't like. Sorry, I'm just want to have it that we are like. I want to kind of start at the basics a little bit on the fun, so that we are all on the same page, because it's important for the details we discuss later. So don't think about so much about what they are playing or about the mirror matchup. Just like in general, like if you're playing like this style of composition, like obviously there's also like different heroes. You can put a diva here. You can do so many things with this. Like how do you normally kind of win fights? And you obviously you're all thinking too detailed right now. Okay, go. Mm, okay, let me ask this differently. Um, then let's put it into one scenario. Maybe it's better for you or like more helpful. Let's say we're playing against like any. Let's just okay. Let's say we play against this. Or like now let's more. I think this is. Let's say we play against anything spammy. It's like a Widow, Hanzo, I don't know, Risa, Sigma, Baptiste, Mercy. How do we win a fight? How do we get kills with this composition there? Yeah. Okay. Like, please don't like. I'm sorry. Like, like make can you put like more um more meat to it? Like, um, hmm, okay. Yeah. Uh-huh. Huh. No LOS. Okay. Very good. Um. All right. Perfect. Like obviously, like all of the things you're saying is completely correct, and all of the things I just want to make it sure that we are like on the same page, and also kind of maybe we can kind of find a little bit of a way. So generally speaking, obviously, like kind of tell you a little bit how I think about this. Like we are obviously playing a brawl strategy, right? Like in general, we obviously in Overwatch have this spam, brawl, and dive. I guess we're all familiar with the different strategies, correct? Like we all know what is behind this. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And a brawl strategy, it doesn't matter if you're playing this, if you play with Diva, if you play Goats, if you play Winston dive or the six-man dive or like whatever. If you're playing for the brawl strategy, for like a brawly way to win, um, you always do the same thing. You always try to look for this close range mid fights, because there you can use your like generally speaking brawl. Sorry, maybe like go one step back. Brawl is obviously all about surviving, right? Like using our defensive cooldowns, defense abilities to kind of just out sustain on a certain area, and either the enemy team then just dies because we can survive longer, or they have to run away from the position, so we just capture point. So these are the two ways we no we win. So it's also sorry, this is also kind of always the way of how we kind of get into these close range fights, right? Like either we kind of just run at them So we kind of catch somebody in a rotation or something like this. We just run with our speed boost at somebody. Then the enemy team obviously has to to defend this person, or the person will just, the person will just die. Or the other way around is that we just play on the objective. Because when we play on the objective, we go on point. It doesn't matter if they have double sniper, Farah, or whatever. Like at some point, there have to be somebody has to go on point. And if it's a Winston, then we stun Winston, or I don't know, we just kill the Winston, or we make sure that he jumps away, and then somebody else has to go, and we kind of get the point. Do you like everybody agrees with this, or any questions about this? No, don't try to like. Obviously, this like we're talking here in a really general way, right? Like, and this is not a okay. You always do this now. Like, it's just a general understanding of like this composition of what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. So obviously, in a brawl scenario here, like brawl against brawl, like we both play the same thing, right? We both have a really good sustain. We both play to surviving, and so on. So in this case, there is no like how do we that's only like how do we get a mid fight in a brawl versus brawl? I mean, both teams just run each other, right? Like there's not much more to say. Like we don't have to force point necessarily. Like if we go point, enemy team will be point on point too. Like of course it comes again. It's always way more difficult, way more specific than afterwards. Like where do you want to fight? How do you take maybe angles? How to use better cooldowns and so on. Um, but to force a mid fight, generally speaking, against anything, yeah, you always have these two options. Does it make sense? Okay. Um, Perfect. So let's maybe then go a little bit more into this kind of brawl against brawl scenario, because obviously like, this is what you're playing, and I guess that's also what you want to talk about. So if you're having this kind of brawl against brawl strategy, which team is normally the one that wins the fight? Is there maybe anything that, in your opinion, is like critical for it? Okay, so you're already going cooldown usage is important, but how is this like wall placement, or like how is this cooldown usage like? How does it matter, like which team wins and which team loses? I mean, just said wall movement. I guess you have a thought process behind it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what happens if we then like run over this Reinhardt? What? Exactly. We force cooldowns, right? So basically, kind of trade a little bit the wall, and we cause a cooldown like a lamb most of the time, maybe even like a defensive wall, maybe some defense matrix, maybe even the Baptiste use some cooldowns. So we use a lot of cooldowns, and all of this just because we used one wall, right? So um, I asked the question again, like, who wins the brawl versus brawl fight? Okay, okay. Let's think about this really quick. So if we're playing first, you say we're always winning because we always force out the lamp on them first. That's what you're saying, right? Um, do the others have a different opinion, or like any like? Do you all agree on this? Okay. Hmm. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Who said this with the first is good for us? Martini, Martini, what do you think about what? Sorry, don't have a name. Let me just. So I also like know who talks what. Uh, Martini, what do you think what RBM just said? Hmm. Okay, great. So again, then same question: who wins in a brawl versus brawl? Like who wins the fight? Uh, mhm. Like yeah, I would say sorry, yeah. Yeah. I, yeah, I would phrase it a little bit differently. In my opinion, the team that wins the brawl versus brawl is the one that uses that use the cooldowns, their cooldowns in the most efficient way, right? Like if we use one wall, one May wall, and get out a lamp, get out like I don't know boobs, like get so many things out, then afterwards we should have an advantage. Um, lamp advantage, whatever. Like they still have a wall, sure, we have to be careful about this, but we should like then kind of just run them over. If they press left click on us and we press left click on them, at some point like we have no more cooldowns. So we still have 4 cooldowns. They don't have cooldowns anymore because it's wall. We should win, right? So it's all about cooldown usage, as you said also best at the start. Like brawl versus brawl, it comes all down to kind of who has the best cooldown usage, who uses the cooldowns to the most effective way. Does it make sense to everybody? Okay. Um, let me think. Where do we go from here? So obviously now, like, and at this point here, like, if we understand this idea, um, now we can start talking about strategy. Now we can start talking about also like hero switches and whatever. Because then obviously, like, you just mentioned like, hey, maybe we could just go first all the time, try to be an aggressive team because I don't know, we are looking for aggressive walls, whatever, want to interrupt, like want to maybe force them to mistakes. Hey, we're also maybe here playing with a Sigma. What is it like? What does Sigma do? A Sigma can maybe look to play from different angles. Why would you ever play from different angles? Like why would a Sigma ever like stay here, for example? Like I don't know, Sigma McCree. Why would they play from different angles compared to our team? Like what's the advantage? Yeah. Um and why can't like why can they do more damage? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like the Reinhardt, the Reinhardt obviously can only just shield once, so they have like they cannot shoot from both. But what does damage actually mean? Like, is it, like because why is more damage good for us? I mean, it's a stupid question, but I wanted you get to the same conclusion. Like, why is it good that we have more damage in this case? Big, exactly. Yeah, it just it's angles force cooldowns quicker. That is important. Like we can also force cooldowns the same way if we just like play 6 here and then 6 here. Like we also force cooldowns at some point. But first of all, the Reinhardt shield will break. Then I guess there is a defense matrix from a Diva or something like this. Then there's a Mei wall. Then I guess the Reinhardt has shield again. Then the Reinhardt shield breaks again, and then maybe comes a lamp or something like this. Like it takes a long time. But if we shoot somebody from 2 angles, like what does it mean? Is that this Reinhardt can only shield here, and then, I mean, who shields here? I guess maybe we can use a Mei wall. But look, then with our positioning, without using any cooldowns, we already kind of forced a Mei wall out really easily. Or maybe a defense matrix or whatever. Like, just because attack from 2 different angles, we kind of force cooldowns out quicker. Which obviously, at the end of the day, like as we just discussed here, cooldowns is important in Brawl vs. Brawl. We'll most likely win. So what's the, like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Uh, Let me just. I will get to this in a second. Um, I just wanted to like also ask, like, that's obviously like one of the huge upsides, right? Like for taking angles. But I mean, why are they not taking like 6 angles then? Like, what's the downside of taking angles? Why is this bad that we isolate ourselves? I mean, double shield isolate themselves all the time, or good dive, they come from different angles. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It yeah. Exactly. Just like basically like the same thing what you said. I just use it two different words for it. You just play a different strategy. Like double shield is just a different strategy. Dive is a different strategy. We not like obviously we cannot simplify everything, but I don't know. I like it to put it in these 3 different main categories of compositions. And if I said like Winston Diva, they play also split. I mean, they just play a different strategy. And we're playing Brawl. And Brawl we're playing because we want to mostly play around our survivability, our survivability, and so on. And maybe like one more question here before we can also like go more detail is like why does it help us to be like why does it help us if we are grouped to sustain or like why is it helpful that we are grouped um that we sustain more, like how is the connection there? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, like, imagine, like, like we said they all together. Like, what happens if, like, here, I don't know, here's a May, and like, I don't know, here's a McCree, right? Like, then, okay, great. Instead of forcing one cooldown, come on, we can force like a McCree roll or whatever, or like maybe a lamp for the McCree and a May ice block at the same time. Like because obviously we can shoot all of them. Like this Reinhardt shield, or like maybe like this Reinhardt shield cannot block the damage because they're split. So the more split we are, faster we also force cooldowns, and I mean, yeah, at some point maybe we even die. So we have to be always careful about like taking like how many angles do we take, because it always kind of means that we're also more vulnerable. Um, and the initial question that I asked was before, like what's the big downside of taking angles? And I mean, obviously, if you take different angles, basically what you said is the enemy team they can just like double into us, right? Like there's just they have like it's a four players there here, like here, like there are 6. Let's just imagine if they're playing with a diva here, so they can just run into us, and it's a 4 vs 6. So that's obviously the main problem, right? That we have like these 4 players have less sustain, or like even if we are like 2 here, like it's harder for us to sustain ourselves if we're not together, because one Reinhardt shield, like imagine this Reinhardt shield here, cannot block damage that comes to the Sigma, in this case, and vice versa, mostly. Um, okay. Any questions about this? No. Okay, perfect. Then, yeah, sure. In my opinion, there's then you have kind of this hybrid things, where you're kind of playing. We have like a sorry, kind of this brawl dive hybrids. You can kind of do both. Like either you go for this brawl strategy or for dive strategy. Mostly, what happens is that you kind of go really quickly at the start. You dive in, and you kind of brawl it out. Or to be honest, you can also just say, hey, we completely just playing brawl with like Lucio Moira and let's say Reaper and I don't know Sombra or something like this. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Like you still do the same thing. You also look for the mid-fight situations, right? And you can either do this with like catching somebody or like playing objective. Obviously, when you have so much mobility, then you mostly want to catch somebody and force the fight there. If you obviously have like I don't know, it's if you play with like this composition here. Let's say if you play I don't know with a break to make it even more specific, then mostly we will not catch anybody. We will mostly just like play on point and say, hey, you have to come to us. But we are really strong together. It's just standing there. So obviously like this is really everything here is super like generalized. It is not like okay with Winston Diva you can only play like this. Of course not. It's just what it comes down to also at the end of the day is 6 players need to have the same idea of like what is our win condition, like how do we win. You know, like we need to have this one plan. And obviously for this we need to have a general understanding of the composition, like what are our strengths, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what's kind of what counts. And yeah, I don't care if you call it brawl, rush, or whatever. Also, if you're playing then this brawl dive hybrid, I just use these words to make it because I can explain it better in this way. But I don't care if you call it brawl dive. I don't care if you call it like we just dive them, and this is also for us fine. Like as long as all 6 of you have the same idea what you want to do, then perfect. You know, that's kind of the most important thing. Okay, but I want to kind of go a little bit more like detail because this general I think it's important. Hopefully, it's also helpful that we kind of talk about this or the general sense, composition wise. But obviously, like this will not really help you so far. Like nothing what I said, I think is really helpful so far when you actually come into the game, um, to at least using it. I mean, of course, it's useful to understand this, but I want to also kind of go a little bit on the actual gameplay. Um, and we can also like I have to remember this thing with timing, like when we want to take angles, when not. Um, and maybe we can like talk about this in a second. Okay. Of course, if you have any questions, you know, you always just shout it out. So maybe like, or like quickly also like Blood on what you asked before was, you know, like what's the difference between like D.Va and Sigma? Like when should I play what? And maybe like the question then for the team, like what's the difference, or like what is like what's kind of important, or like what's this big strength of Sigma in this kind of composition, in this style, and of D.Va? Sorry? I just couldn't understand you. No, I just couldn't. Yeah, I just couldn't know what you said. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, completely obvious. Like we all. Sorry, Vladimir, you wanted to add something? Okay. Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, like the D.Va obviously defense metrics is really like is really helpful for the Reinhardt, so he can swing. The Sigma is obviously better on holding an angle. But I mean, if you just have the D.Va McCree against the or like just a D.Va on Sigma on a different angle, I mean, mostly the Sigma will win, right, with the shield and stuff. So yeah, exactly. So these are kind of the strong suits and the downsides of D.Va or Sigma. But what does it mean for us? So you said like with Sigma we can take better angles. What does it mean for our playstyle as a team if you're playing with Sigma? Exactly. Like we play slow. Maybe at tier we want the best case scenario take angles. If we like playing slow normally always means we want to take different angles if possible. Um, this then hopefully forces out cooldowns, and then either we just kind of stay like this and kill. This would kind of be the a more spammy approach, but I mean, obviously we're still playing out the brawl, so we're basically looking for like, okay, when do we have kind of a cooldown advantage, and then we can just kind of push it, right, and go for the maybe even brawl fight. As a D.Va, I mean, yeah, a D.Va you just have to play faster. You have the D.Va defense metrics; it's just way faster, like going aggressive. So if you play like if the Sigma gets too much value over time, then will be difficult. Um, of course, like these things, you know, like what I really want to understand, like what we're talking about here, is a general understanding. Like, we're playing not from this side, you know. We're not playing like this, and we don't move like chess figures like this. Like we are still playing the game from a POV, from this perspective. And there will be situations or maps where we just feel like we have an opening, we just rush in, even though we have Sigma, you know, or like we just have, I don't know, the map is in a way that we cannot really take good off angles, you know. Then of course we can also play differently. Like it's not all like it's not so super technical. Like we of course we need I want that we or like I think it's important to understand this stuff, but in the actual game, um we we don't want to play like chess figures. We need to react a little bit more. We need to have also like this kind of game sense of can we push or can we not push? And especially also really important, one more thing about this pushing or not pushing is that imagine like your Reinhardt, normally it's Reinhardt who calls an engagement. Like he sees this, right? Like he has no idea, for example, where the McCree is right now. Or maybe even the Reinhardt. Like what I'm saying with this is he doesn't have perfect information. That's also important, like why in fights, like why when we fight in Overwatch, we want to call out things like, I don't know, they have no May wall or they have no lamp or things like this. Like important things, you know? Because maybe the Reinhardt didn't see it. You know, like it's just like we don't have like perfect vision. And we make decisions on not on chances, but we sometimes don't have all the knowledge, all the informations, and still make kind of a move on it. So at the end of the day, again, like it comes all back to this: like when you make a decision to push or not, like I don't care if you're right or wrong. I don't care if you cannot pause in the game, zoom out, think about it, discuss for 2 hours, and then make a decision. Yeah, theoretically, it is better for us to push right now. No, like if you push or not, it depends. Maybe mostly I have like I don't know a 1 second time window to make this decision, and then you just need to push. So it's way more important that all 6 of you are on the same page, that we all push here, and then we make our individual decisions to like what does it mean for push. Maybe for Sigma, mean pushing means I don't just run in here. Maybe I like push. Okay, I push like this, you know, or like I don't know, I push like this, whatever. But basically, I need to get like I want to fight right now. Basically, it's pushing me, right? We engage in the team, so we need to like value as fast as possible. That's what I mean. But yeah, sorry to finish my point. What I wanted to say is that it's so much more important that all 6 of you kind of have the same idea at the same time, especially when you're playing Brawl. Push or like one plan basically, and we're on the same page. We do the same thing. Then always having kind of the best knowledge or the best theoretical idea behind it. Does it make sense? Yeah, perfect. Okay, then let me think. I think so far we have kind of covered mostly everything. Like we talked about like the difference between Diva and Sigma. Obviously like the question of like, okay, when do you take angles as Sigma? I mean, or like when you take angles in general, not only as Sigma, can also be as McCree or like anybody else. Normally though, it is obviously it is in this case a Sigma because just a good hero for this. It's also mostly the McCree who takes angles instead of the Mei because you want to have the synergy between Mei and Reinhardt. Like normally speaking, these two characters always want to stay together because they can peel for each other really well. And if there are, let's say Mei kind of Reinhardt stays from there, like always if the Mei right click, there is kind of your pressure, your poke, which forces a reaction, like let's say a shield, for example. And then the McCree is the other hero that can deal decent range damage. Can then maybe like take this angle. He also has the roll, so he's like fast to go back and stuff like this. More survivability in this case, and he then forces kind of maybe another cooldown. Like a Lucio here, for example, or like Diva would not force, I don't know, a Sigma shield because like who cares about this Diva shooting from this range, you know? So it has to be kind of something with a little more damage behind it, and mostly obviously it's McCree then in this case. But obviously could get supported from a Diva in this case, or in this case Sigma. I guess Sigma also alone is already decent, uh, decent damage. But that's kind of the idea that Mei is more better with the Reinhardt, and the McCree kind of takes the angles. Does it make sense? Yeah. And the last thing about the timing is obviously like when do we want to take angles as Sigma? I mean, basically speaking, all the time. Um, if we have the time for it, like if we're not fighting really soon, like if you like or like if we're not kind of like obviously the Sigma is still better here next to the Reinhardt if he really wants to protect him. He can protect the Reinhardt better from here than from here. So if the fight is coming, like if makes we for example we want to rush into them because we have beat, they don't have beat. Like I don't know, we have like this is the only ult we have, the ult advantage, or we have any advantage we want to push. Then I don't want the Sigma to run in here and take angles in this moment because we just want to fight right now. So it doesn't even if he gets like let's say if he gets 50 damage from here, he will get 100, but in 2 seconds, uh, I like if we fight right now, I take this 50 damage right now instead of like 100 damage in 2 seconds. And obviously, this is now when we want to push the same way, also the other way. Like if we know like hey they will push us and he's all the time, we don't really have time for taking F angle. Then either we play really defensively to make kind of we play really far away, or like we play in a way that we still get some value out of the Sigma because they have to run at us first, and in this moment where they have to run at us, the Sigma gets kind of this off-angle damage and whatsoever, or we kind of just stick more together. Does it make sense? Okay. Then yeah, to also like go over some gameplay, then let's kind of just watch some fights. And yeah, I will just kind of we watch together, and I will just tell you, ask you afterwards the question: what have you done really good, and what do you think you can improve on? Okay, so you watch it the same way I do, and then we kind of talk about some stuff. Or if you obviously have any questions, also just throw it out. Yeah, let's make it here a little bit, maybe a bit too much. Just wanted to make it also here a little bit slower because like Brawl is always so fast. That's why it's terrible to spectate a Brawl versus Brawl. Like think about back in the days go, it's like terrible to spectate. Happens everything so quickly. Super maybe interesting to play, yeah, but it's kind of hard to play. So just like if you want to go more detailed there or something like this. I guess we can make one more here. The quick cannon. Okay. Yeah, I mean from start to finish. Anything you said, like what do you think about the fight? And this was anything do you think you did really well? Anything you could do better? What's your opinions? Oops. Mm-hmm. So here. Mm-hmm. So you think we should have waited more? Okay, then what I sorry, I want to just make a quick after question there. What are you waiting for in this case? I'm not saying it's right. It's wrong what you're saying. I'm just asking like what are you waiting for? Okay, and yeah, and let's make it more specific. Like, what cooldowns are you like? Because like now we're obviously asking ourselves like, what is the trigger? Like, what is our trigger that we push up? Like, but like, what moment is good enough for us to look for this push? Um, no, but sorry, like right here, nobody is dead. So like, what I'm asking is like, like because Baldung said like he thinks that we should have waited a little bit more. So I'm kind of just asking of describing this like what are the kind of the triggers that he thinks are like or like that you as a team think are like our go moment. Like when do you think we waited enough? What are we looking for? Okay. Okay. Anything else? Mm-hmm. Okay. I also like want to make you like make a reality check here. Like again, like I always like to go back into your POV in this case to have a better opinion. Do you know when a McCree stunned? Is this like is the McCree stun like just the McCree stun for you the trigger of let's go in? Is this really important? Not so much. Is an amp from the Lucio like is it something that you say, hey, like if he used amp, it's kind of our trigger to go in? Okay. Mm-hmm. No, this sounds reasonable. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. So for sure, like lamp, I would also say like in my opinion, like I think the most important cooldowns will be like which could be like really triggers, like hard triggers to us to say, okay, now we really need want to push. In this case, these two things, which just comes from experience most of the time. Wait 1 second before you ask the question. I want to ask also, like keep it in your head, please. Because like the dude you said taking space. How will we take space with this comp? Like what do you imagine like when you say like take space? Or maybe the others can explain. Mm, like make it super specific. Like which character guys goes who kind of almost. Like I wanted you really like tell me like because I don't like who takes a corner where. Okay. So just okay. Okay. I mean, no. I mean, we just talked about taking space. You know, like whatever taking space for you means. That's basically okay. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I'm just yeah. I'm just and it's also like like, again like all the things we are discussing here. By the way, there is no right or wrong way. Why I'm also especially asking you the question is because I know from experience also from my teams like taking space is really like everybody thinks about it differently. You know, like when you say okay we take space, okay, like okay, that means our Reinhardt for example he just like charged in and he says I took space. Okay, but maybe we just mean taking space in a different way. Generally speaking, just my quick opinion is taking space um like sure, yeah, we occupy more space, like what's our goal? Like our goal is that we in this case here in this specific scenario, generally speaking, if we have control over everything, we want to obviously take angles first, like right, we want to play a little bit slower, we want to take angles. Best case scenario, maybe sometimes also not, like the angles is like make it like this. The spam composition always hits angle as a brawl, obviously it's great, don't always have to be, but to force cooldowns, like this is the important thing, right? So force cooldowns. And so if you have taken space, what it kind of for me at least means, we just can like deepen our angles, for example, because like do we really want to our Reinhardt really close to this, right? Like no, like we don't want to fight yet, right? Like it's taking space for you, meaning we push, because like this would be for me we push because this means we want to take a fight. But we said it before, like if we want to take a fight, and I want my Sigma and my McCree go with my Ryan in this moment, because we have no time to take the angles first. Like if we want to fight, and we fight, then I don't want the Sigma to take an angle first, stuff like this. If we say, hey, let's take space, for me it's more like a call, like hey, we can keep playing slow, we can like, keep kind of deepen our angles. The Sigma can maybe like take even better angles, maybe the McCree can take even better angles or stuff like this, because like we have an advantage that they don't have speed, for example. We can even like play better, play slower or whatever. Of course, sorry, is my understanding of it. And again, like there's not a right or wrong. It's like this is just my personal understanding. If you as a team, if you all six agree, like taking space for you guys means like going like doing this, and there's nothing wrong with this. Like like there's no science. There's no like Wikipedia or something like this of Overwatch terms. If you all, that's what I mean. Like and like if you're all together, like if we all understand this, then sure, like completely okay for me. Um, I just kind of wanted to raise a little bit the awareness of like what does it mean taking space for you guys, you know? Because it's obviously super important that we know the same. Because if our Reiner pushes at the same time, our Sigma goes inside here. I mean, then and with the McCree, then we have here like a 4 versus 6 situation. And then to be honest, I don't care if they use the Ember or not, we will lose this. Because like they will just kind of run our Reiner, then maybe the Sigma, I don't know, goes here, but our Reiner is already half HP. We maybe have to use Lamp already, then he starts shooting then, and then their enemy team is already kind of here. You know? So that's why it's important that we kind of have the same understanding of it. It just all depends. Sorry. No, it depends. All depends on your win condition. If you as like you can also put the same thing also on the diva. If you think like, hey, I mean, of course, diva does more damage from here than from here, right? And if the diva thinks like, okay, like I'm taking space, and she means like, okay, I want to just take angles, don't want to fight right now, then sure. Like again, like taking space is no. I don't know. That you cannot look in the Abstract dictionary. Sure, it's just like at the end, I would more like say it depends on like how you want to play it. Like taking space, and you all like if this team like if we understand that we want to just normally push in, and you know take like this is our win condition, we not really want to take many angles or whatever, and we say okay, I take space now, then I would understand like with this idea behind it, I would understand my runner just goes more closely because then there's less space between the enemy runner, and we kind of took space away, and like we pushed in more. Like, this is what I mean, you know. um like it really depends all kind of, in my opinion, on the win condition of what we want to do. But again, like I'm be talking about here, is it like I don't know, like I don't know, we're talking about words right now. At the end of the day, it's just important that the team understands like the meaning of it, and that we're on the same page. You know, for example, like I think yeah, okay, I think this should be understood. There was a question which I pushed away. What was the question? You should write it down. And now the focus is on you. And even a good question, and now you get 5 more seconds of pressure. Okay. It all right. That's fine. Um, okay. I want your mind then back on we talked about triggers, right? Like, sorry, by the way, is it also fine that we kind of go into more the theoretical session today, like or like way, because some teams also just want to go over the fights and want to say like, why do we not win? If you want to like if you want to go more over like, hey, why do we want to win this fight? We won this fight. Okay, next fight. But it's nothing bad. Like it's both ways are completely fine. But I feel like from just like how I started a little bit, that I talk really theoretically, like really about concepts today. Is this okay for you, or do you want to actually want more to just literally see, hey, you should stay on left side more instead of right, and then next fight? Okay, but but okay, but what I mean is like, do you want to do you want me? Like, I mean, obviously we only have like not so much, but do you want me to more like just go over the next fight right now and just see I can tell you like what I think you should lose, or do we also want to like maybe talk or like is this conceptual thing good? Do you feel like this helpful? Okay, but it just kind of said like that you want to go the fights, but also the concept is good. Okay, then let's maybe like let's then I want to like finish then maybe on this thing, and maybe next time we can more talk about like directly like, hey, you lost this fight because of this. Okay, next fight. So things of coaching. Um, okay, then I want your head back right now on, you know, we were staying here and you said like, hey, we're looking for triggers to us to engage. And you all like kind of said like about this stuff. But all of these things kind of have in common is they're all cooldowns, right? You only talked about, okay, if they have no metrics, if they have no wall, if they have no lamps, which also makes sense. You know, we talked about like, hey, we want to force cooldowns. Like we position in a way that we want to force more cooldowns. this is kind of our way to go. So yeah, sure, obviously we have these are our major triggers. But what could be other triggers um, to that we want to push other than cooldowns? There are sorry, there are three more. Positioning. Okay, like what does it mean real quick? In your opinion, what's the bad positioning? Okay. Yeah. So basically bad positioning is kind of where we can like with one cooldown or like where we know that we can like if we attack right now, we force a fight right now, we have like a really good chance of winning. Because of in this case, brawl against brawl, we can just like with one cooldown we force like I don't know, almost 20 of theirs. Maybe even kill the Rhine. Right? Everybody understood this, like why bad positioning it could be a trigger? Okay. So positioning is another trigger. Okay. There are two more triggers, generally speaking. Uh, yeah, it's kind of still. I'm talking about like what is a trigger that that makes you push, that makes you want to go in. Ultimates, yeah, ultimates could be one of those. If we just, I mean, if we have if we have a sorry, let's say Lucio sound barrier, yeah, beat, and they have nothing. I mean, why should we like? Of course, yeah, we can still play slow and force all the cooldowns out first. But why don't we not just go in aggressively, even with the Sigma in this case? You know, just go in, and instead of using cooldowns to survive, like shields or like May walls, we just use a beat. You know, instead of using lamp, we just beat, and then they have to use all the cooldowns still to survive because if not, they just die. So after the beat is gone, we still have all the cooldowns, or we have a lot of cooldowns. They should have less, you know? That's kind of our way to winning. And there's one more. I mean, sure, like if we have, if it's overtime, we need to touch, right? But it's more like it's not really much of a choice. So I wouldn't like really put this as, hey, it's a trigger for us. I mean, definitely we can abuse. Um, kill, yeah, like why kill? Yeah, like numbers basically like just make it general like HP. Obviously if the HP is zero, like the guy is dead, right? Like, but I mean, if the Rhine is like 1 HP, I mean, like why not pushing in? If we push in now where the Rhine is 1 HP, I'm pretty sure they have to lamp him immediately. You know, maybe he just Baptiste is like, okay, I don't have to lamp yet because the enemy team is so far away, so I can just heal him up, heal him up, heal him up. Okay, but Reinhardt obviously has a hard shield the whole time, so he will be no threat for us. He will not force our Ryan to do anything. Like he will not be allowed to swing. Like he's way too scared. He's like 1 HP, you know. So or if we like just go like if our Reinhardt is like just a little bit of range, maybe the May has to immediately wall this because if not, our Ryan just the enemy their Ryan just dies. Like, does it make sense why HP is also could also be a trigger? Yeah. And by the way, okay, just like finishing my sentence here. Like these four things, cooldowns, ults, position, and what was the last one? HP. Yeah, these are kind of all four. Like in my again, like obviously everything I'm saying here is subjective. Like it's my way of explaining things. I guess other people think about this differently, and I guess again, there's no science behind this. Yeah, mostly from my experience, but I hope it makes sense. These all four things are basically the way you can think about do you have an advantage in the fight or not. Like these are the four wings to like that kind of makes you have an advantage or not. Obviously, like in a game itself, it will never be just a cooldown advantage or just an ult advantage. It will always be a combination of all of those. Oops, of all of those four things. Like if you have this, like if these things combined, and then you say, hey, we have an advantage, then obviously what do we do? In the yeah, I mean in the brawl basically we just would we just push. We just would push. Or like if you say like, hey, I don't know, we want to really play for the spam. I don't know, we then I guess spam. But we just we kind of play for our win condition. We just kind of execute. We just engage. We just do it. We dive in. We push, or like in a spam, we would just take more angles. But yeah, like this is kind of the thing. And obviously, the same thing. If you have a disadvantage, I mean, what do we do in this specific scenario here, like brawl against brawl? Yeah, we just kind of we go away because we don't want to fight right now. We just want to wait and we have more cooldowns and we are until we are heat up again. And again, just like I'll come to your question in a second. And that's what I mean by what I said, like here, like look at this, like this is his perspective. How the hell, like no Ryan, not alone, no super, no Overwatch League player can know in this moment all of these things on detail. Like no way, he doesn't know all of this. He knows approximately some things. He maybe assumes some things in there, but he will also obviously make a decision. Like you don't always have all perfect informations. So it's a little bit of a feeling. It's also a lot about kind of communication. Like like we talk about like, hey, what cooldowns have we used? Like where they position and all of these things. All of these things help us to make a better decision, or like have a better idea of, do we have an advantage and do we want to push or not? This is kind of what it comes down to. And again, like even if we feel like, hey, we are in a disadvantage, like, or like technically speaking, if we like stop the fight here and we kind of zoom out and we say, okay, because of this and this and this, we are disadvantaged. If your team is like on the same page and we still push, even though this would be quote unquote the wrong thing to do, it can still work, because we just like, it's being on the same page is always like so much more above about like making the right decision. But obviously we have to talk here, or like, I mean, when we talk about theory, or like when we talk about how to win games, I mean, of course we talk about how we make the right decision. But I really want to put in your brains, like, sure, making the right decision is important, I mean, obviously, but it is so much more important that we all six do the same thing. Does it make sense? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, um, basically, like these four things together, kind of, advantage. And if you have an advantage and we want to do it, this is kind of normally how it works. So the other question. Yeah. If there's, yeah. Oh, so what do your teammates say? If he just said, like, if the enemy Ryan is like in one, like we're kind of poking a little bit, you named it, or we're kind of playing on range here, and we noticed the enemy Ryan is like 1 HP. And the question was like, should we just always push him? Right? This was the question. I mean, yeah, but sorry, like now you talk about, so you talk about now like how we do it, but the question is not how, it's more like, do we or do we not? Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I hope you like all actively thought about this, and I mean, I think hopefully you all understood there is no right or wrong, right? It's situational. Like I will never tell you, like, if the Rhine is 1 HP, you should always push. No, I will never tell you an answer, yes or no to this, because we just talked about how like it's a combination of so many things, and I just kind of made four criteria. I'm pretty sure maybe there are also other things, but like ults, um, and HP. So if you say like the Reinhardt is 1 HP, so we have a huge advantage here on HP, but they have beat. Okay, we push it them. Okay, I guess they use speed. I mean, it's great, but I guess they can also just like run us over now. Like, I don't know, like that's what I mean. That's why Overwatch is so complicated. It's not that easy. Yeah, like it's, of course I would definitely with you if it like if they have nothing, they like both our teams just like they're stacking here 6. There's no positional advantage or disadvantage. We have all the cooldowns. They have no ultimates, and the runner is low HP. It's like 1 HP. I mean, of course, that we want to push, right? Like it's easy to understand. But yeah. But do we even know that it's 1 HP? Things like this, like it's not always that easy. And obviously then it also comes down to like, hey, we are playing here with a Sigma, they're playing with a D.Va, so maybe even though the Rhino is 1 HP, I don't know, maybe we value the Sigma, the D.Va matrix like so much higher than the Sigma shield. I don't know. Just an example. Like I just want to tell you like show you like how like like how impossible it is to answer this question in this way of like you should always push. But again, like I want to, I don't also don't want to like I I hope I could show you in this session today a little bit of maybe also the complexity of Overwatch, but also kind of like what it is important. Like some things we discussed, like what are kind of triggers, how do we kind of define them. I think we talked about a lot of kind of also, especially obviously concepts today, but I kind of also want to break this down now to something like what does it mean for us? Like, because for now, obviously, like I gave you kind of a shit ton of information right now, like really a big ton. First of all, the first thing we should do right now is to not expect that next scrim we will all be grandma, or like we will all, I don't know, we play like a shock because we understood now these things. And of course not. First of all, it takes practice, but also we take now this shit ton of information and we break it down. And then we practice this part, then we practice this part, then we practice this part, and so on until we actually hear, or until we really digested or really understood this. So and also there's like this is number one. So number two is it's a little bit counterproductive, but don't overthink it so much. Like a lot of things that I just mentioned, that I kind of just like try to explain you or like try to show you with like also arguments, you already know this once. Like you already know that when there is a McCree 1 HP in front of me, I push him or whatever. Like it is nothing new for you. You already have this feeling. Maybe you never really thought about it. You never really put this like this one-on-one together, but you know that one-on-one together is always two. So in a game, don't overthink it. I think it's important that we have clear triggers, that we have a clear understanding of how we want to, like how this composition wants to play, like what are we playing for, especially also against other compositions, not just a brawl against brawl. But yeah, like at the end of the day, it comes really together. Like the question with brawl is basically, do we push or do we not push? Yeah, we will do it together. This is the most important thing. And figuring out the right idea here, if we push or not. We kind of talked about it now for a long time. This is what I mean with like the big piece. We keep it together. We like just make one piece at a time. But yeah, like do you know what I mean with this? Okay, so my recommendation, and obviously like the dude has a way more clear idea because he is actually there. I was just like here for 1 hour basically, but just maybe like also from me like with recommendation there. And again, like your opinion is way more valid than mine in this case because you know your team. But if this would be a completely new team, that I would kind of prioritize it this way. That I think understanding like the right tempo is, I think, important. I would kind of say that this is kind of the first thing we really need to do, the kind of maybe practice also. Like when do we play fast? When do we play slow? What it means? Like taking angles, taking not. Like when do we take angles? Like hey, we're brawling right now. My Sigma Ghost does. Like maybe not. But again, like there's also not always the right or wrong. Okay, so this would be the first kind of priority. What I would say. Then I think the second one should be something like like the right triggers. Like when do we really want to go in? When do we really want to go out? And obviously, this is something we not always think about this in the moment. We can also like plan ahead. If we say like, hey, guys, next fight we use speed, or like we play slow until I don't, or like easy example, we play slow, all focused Ryan until the shield breaks, and then we use our shutter. This is a typical thing of we're playing slow first, and we have a specific trigger for us to engage, which is this case the Reinhardt shield. This is one example from millions. Like there can be so many other things. Like we can definitely also plan this ahead, but understanding this of what could be triggers and like obviously in the end of the day then understanding like when do we have an advantage or not is, I think, another thing. And then maybe at the end at the number 3 we talk about really strategies. Like we talk about okay, Eichenwalde first. We're playing this composition. Do we want to go this side or do we want to go this side? What is better for our tempo that we like? For the triggers that we're looking for, then we really talk about strategies, and this is kind of the first thing. And I'm pretty sure like it is kind of make sure that we have like these things first settled until we talk about really like hardcore strategy stuff. And again, obviously also for you as a team, like, hey, do we even want to play Sigma or Diva? I mean, I don't know if you already tested this. Like again, like I have no idea like how your team, on which level or like which kind of state your team is basically. But because you asked kind of the question. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's obviously again like a combination of how does your team like it, how you like it. It's a combination of things. For example, like I don't know, like one idea I could just give you is, hey, if you're already playing the Sigma, why not playing also the Hanzo, who is maybe like we double down on the slower type, the slower thing, because the Hanzo obviously slower fights better. McCree is better in like faster fights, but maybe we can double down on this. It's also still a brawl fight. We have the same triggers. We just have to make Hanzo. Maybe you say like, no, our McCree player says I cannot play Hanzo. I can completely off the table. Or your team says, nah, it's just like I don't know. We like McCree more. Then sure. It's not about copying like, or it's always doing what kind of maybe the Overwatch team does or whatever. It's so much more important. Like figure out what's important, what works for you. Okay, then do you guys have any last questions? Mhm. Yeah, great. Then yeah, I hope. I like that you kind of. It was helpful that you took something out of it. Again, like this, like bunch of information, step by step in the next scrum. We focus on one thing at a time. Um, and also maybe if we want to do another session at some point, maybe we can also really go more for like actual fights, and we can talk about, hey, we lost this fight because of this. Okay, next time we need to take more care about this stuff, because today was obviously really theoretical. For sure, we can. Sure, we can figure this out. Just one thing about I'm on vacation from the 16th to the 26th. Uh, so if we can make sessions, I'm a bit after. But yeah, for sure. Like we can also I just want to say that this is not the like this is obviously like one style of session of thought review where we really like have this theory thing, which we do maybe I don't know. In my team, I also do it. I do it maybe like if needed, obviously maybe not so general, but once a week or once a month, maybe only if when we talk about comms really, and then other things is like maybe even like talking about strategies or talking about like why did we lose this fight and stuff like this. So just want to mention it. Okay, great. Then upload the video and send it to you. I think I just send it to you and you put it in the specific channel. Okay.